What's up, you guys? It's your boy Squints here with another episode of A Man in His Podcast. Today, I have a very special guest. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
What's going on, everybody? I am Mason D Madden. That's my new name on the independent scene, formerly known as Mace or MACE from WWE.
How's it going? Today's your first day of free agency officially, right?
Freedom, yeah, it's my first day.
So, how were you and Mansoor able to show up at DPW?
I can't reveal all of our secrets, but MXM, we don't really follow all the rules necessarily, so we were able to make that work.
Awesome, awesome. Uh, my first question is, you used to play football. How was the transition from playing professional football going over into professional wrestling, and how did that come about?
I've always been a wrestling fan, pro wrestling fan since I was a kid. I started watching wrestling after after playing Here Comes the Pain, the video game for the PlayStation 2. So I was always interested, and my plan as a kid was always to play football for as long as I could, and then to move into this realm that I'm in right now. So when I was in Houston with the Texans, I actually became pretty close with Booker T and his promotion of Reality of Wrestling down there, which is still great and still running. But as soon as I was done playing football, I hit him up and I was like, "Hey, can you teach me how to wrestle? Because I have a tryout in a couple months." And it was actually pretty quick. I was pretty lucky.
And then my first introduction to you was a commentary role you had. How did that all come about? Did they just approach you and ask you, or did you approach them and ask them?
I did not ask them. I did not see it coming. Vic Joseph, who's the NXT commentator right now, called me one day and he said, "Hey, we need you at Raw." And this is at this point I had been doing nothing. We need you at Raw. They're going to have you do commentary for a main event. I was like, okay. Didn't know why, but I did it. It was kind of like a learning on the job kind of thing. And I think after that first show, he was like, "Hey, so the real reason why we're doing this is because Paul Heyman got a hold of some of your tapes because I had been recording a couple of, I guess, demo reels, really for my friend John Quasto, who's a comedian, great comedian. Check out his special; it's on YouTube." And I had been he had been there working on commentary and he didn't have anybody to do it with, so I did it with him. Paul Heyman got a hold of it, said he liked me, and I was on Raw 2 weeks later for the season premiere, and I was off Raw 2 months later after Brock Lesnar put me through a table.
So, was there any plans with that with you and Brock, or was that just that?
I've heard a lot of things. I heard at one point, because the clip did really well, people were like, "Oh, are we going to go in this direction?" The problem was, and it was kind of like a problem on being colored commentary for Raw in general, was because I had not been like a featured in a wrestling role up until that point. Nobody knew I was a wrestler. The general audience wasn't aware that I could wrestle or be a wrestler. So I think the pitch was brought up at some point, but from what I understand, Vince was like, uh, it would be confusing. And then they moved on.
So, what was your first interaction with Vince like? Because I've heard he's a pretty intimidating person, but he's not at the same time. Like I heard once you talk to him, it's not as intimidating.
That's a great way of putting it. Vince is incredible at, like, if you, when you're talking to him just one on one about something, he'll make you feel like $1,000,000. My first interaction with him was I had a production meeting, my first production meeting, and I'm sitting in the back row of this production office, and I'm just trying to stay out of the way, trying to keep my head down. I have my notebook, and he walks up behind me, and he just forearms me in the back, and I'm like, was I in the way or something? Like, did I do something wrong? And then he turns around after continuing to walk by, and he just looks at me like the Grinch. And yeah, I really didn't know how to interact with that. I, my big regret is that I didn't like double leg him and start like beating him up, because I think he would have liked it. But yeah, no, it's like he's like a weird trickster goblin that lives under a bridge.
I heard the story. I seen it on TikTok from one of your streams. Was made sort of the he came out for the rehearsal and then he told you to go change real quick,
Yeah.
and then
He I learned that day he doesn't like white pants. He thinks they look bad on TV. I was like, okay. That's why I was very dealing with Vince, to bring more than one pair of pants because just in case he doesn't like white pants, you just never know.
so how was it working with LA Knight, and were you and Mansoor kind of concerned whenever you found out that he was going from Max to pretty back to LA Knight?
It was great. Max was call him Max. Max was great. Obviously that was not what he was used to doing, so he really had to dive into a completely different role for him. But I guess as management kind of shifted, it started looking like they were going to go in that direction. And obviously, me and Mansoor assumed we were finished. It was over for us. And at the end, we were right. We just managed to delay it with hard work and effort.
I was gonna say, when all those releases started coming, were you and Mansoor, were you guys kind of expecting that phone call or not?
You're always expecting the phone call. If you're not one of the guys that are like made, then you're always wondering, it's like, okay, when is the next batch of releases? When's the next Black Friday or whatever? And when we found out there were calls going around, you're like, okay, well, we expected it, but also at the same time, from what we were told, and I'm not going to go into why we were taking off TV, but from what we were told, it was not our fault. So we thought that maybe because it was not our fault that we were taken off TV, that we would be safe and they'd be willing to work something out. And that didn't end up being the case. But I think we all end up where we're supposed to. So I'm not upset about it in the least.
And then was it always the plan post release for you and Mansoor to be a tag team? Or did that just from your guys' chemistry on TV, you guys just decided you wanted to take it to the independent scene?
Yeah, honestly, we're just actually best friends. They didn't know that when they put us together in the first place. I remember the first meeting we had when they pitched the maximum male models thing to us. We told Vince, we were like, hey Vince, we're like actually best friends. We go on cruises and stuff together. We hang out all the time. He's like, oh, I didn't know that. That's great. So I don't know. I mean, the plan was to always just do whatever gets us booked, and I think people naturally like our chemistry together, and I think we have a very good dynamic. We both offer things that the other does not. So if I've heard people say that we might be one Cardona with our powers combined. So if we could be that together, then more power to us.
Has anyone ever told you you have a great Vince McMahon impression?
I've heard that. I've heard that a lot of people have a great Vince McMahon impression. I think he seeps into you.
You just talk to
when
him
you talk
enough?
to him, yeah, if you talk to him enough, like everybody's got a great Vince, everybody's got a great Braun. Those are the two. Braun Strowman. Everybody can do those.
Let me hear your Braun Strowman.
Okay, so I don't know if if you keep up with the streams, we have a very famous story about when Braun uh came in and blew us up from behind. It was the after school special, and I lost the lunchbox that he was supposed to eat a sandwich from. And afterwards, we get to the back, and he was like, "Where was the damn sandwich, Mace?" I was like, I lost it, Ron. I didn't see you coming. I lost it in the crowd. And he was like, oh, I just wanted to make sure you weren't going into business for yourself on there.
That is a really good Braun Strowman. Wow. That's really good. Oh my god. I thought you
we all
meant
have one. We all have one.
when you said Braun, I thought you meant Braun Breaker, and I was like, I never really heard anyone have a Braun Breaker impression.
I don't have a Braun Breaker impression yet. Maybe give me some time. I'll develop it.
Develop it. All right.
Yeah.
And then this next question is from my friend Kevin. He asked, "What was your reaction with Maxine moving on to Otis and Gable?"
That was the second time we realized, oh, we're done. It's finished. It's over. I think we hold the record for being Genetti'd by managers. Um, but yeah, kind of in a similar vein. It was different because obviously Maxine wasn't an established act before coming to us. But as soon as we kind of saw that moving on and they just weren't explaining it, and then we heard why we weren't going to be featured on TV as the models anymore, we it's kind of like, oh well, good for her. And I mean, she's doing great. We're really proud of her. We're like her two dads. So we take all of the credit for her success, and she can pay us whenever she makes her first $1 million.
And then this is a little off topic, but it's a question I want to ask everyone. Are you familiar with the show Jersey Shore?
I'm familiar, yeah.
So, if you could choose any cast member to be your tag team partner for one match, who would it be? And don't
it's
say
gotta be
Snooki because
it's
she's
gotta be
trained.
Snooki. It's Snooki because she's had a match. She's had a
Let's say,
WrestleMania match. She's had one more WrestleMania match than I ever
damn. Let's say they,
have.
I didn't even think of that. Uh, let's say they are all properly trained.
Okay, they're all properly trained. There's not, so I'm familiar with the Jersey Shore of like 10 years ago. I
Yeah,
assume they're all the same people, right?
yeah.
Paulie D's jacked. He's got a good build.
Okay.
He's got good charisma. He's a DJ, right?
He is,
Yeah.
yes.
He knows how to lead a crowd. I go with Paulie D then. If not
Did,
Snooki. Snooki WrestleMania feature Snooki.
I always forget to mention that part because I had a guest once and they're like, well, she had a match at WrestleMania. And I was like, I get that, but that's the boring answer to the
No,
question.
but it's the right answer. She's better than me. Yeah.
Uh, and then I don't know if you've seen the comments on Twitter. Somebody asked you, green shirt guy or Trinidad flag shirt guy or Trinidad flag guy. I guess they're
I
assuming the guys from the crowd.
I saw that. I wasn't sure what that meant. I guess for me, I'll go with Trinidad flag guy because my grandma is from the Caribbean.
Have you had any interactions with the regulars, like the fans that you see at every show?
No, not really. I think I sat behind Frank the Clown when I was at WrestleMania 32, was if that was in Dallas, but that was
Yeah.
as a fan. I was a fan. Um, Not really. It's always been a mystery to me. It's like they're like Bigfoot. I always wonder is like how do they do that? How does that happen?
Well, the green shirt guy, he gets the same seat every show, and that's what really confuses me. I'm like,
Yeah,
not only is
a
he
front
always
row
there,
seat, like it's always a front row seat. It's all over the country, sometimes international.
yeah,
Like
I
I'm
seen
like,
him at Backlash. I was like,
what is that? What cabal? Where do they work? That not only do they have the money for this, but they also are able to have the time to go.
yeah, they have unlimited PTO.
Yeah, it's crazy to me. Let's find that out. Anybody watching, if you can figure this out for me, I'd be very grateful.
Well, somebody said this is just a huge fan theory. I don't believe it, but somebody said that like his grandma knows someone in the office, like at Stanford, and that's how he gets the tickets because Granny knows someone, and just he gets.
But that explains one of them. There's like
Yeah,
10 of them.
Brock Lesnar guy.
Yeah,
He doesn't wash his shirt or he doesn't change his shirt. That's what confuses me. I don't know if he has the same shirt.
surely he
Like,
washes it.
well, I don't know if he has multiples of that one or if
He's
it's
got to
the
have
same
multiples.
one.
It's what he's known for. He's got to have multiples.
And then who else is there? There is. Do you remember Rick the sign guy?
Yep, I
Was
remember Sign Guy.
the redhead? I haven't seen him in a while.
Yeah,
And
no, and when you don't see them, you're always like, oh, I hope nothing happened to
yeah,
them.
yeah, you're almost looking for them when you're watching the shows rather than
Yeah,
watching for the wrestlers.
I hope Sign Guy's okay.
No, there's all sorts of them. I mean, it's like that at the Independence too. Like there's a guy here that he I know he listens and I don't know his name, but we call him Eddie Kingston guy. because he looks just
He
like
looks
Eddie
like Eddie
King. He looks
Kingston.
just like Eddie Kingston, and he talks just like Eddie Kingston, but he doesn't mean to. And everyone kind of just calls him the Eddie Kingston of St. Louis.
Yeah.
But yeah,
How does he talk like Eddie Kingston if he's from St. Louis? That's crazy.
I St. Louis doesn't have their own accent. We all just talk differently. I've never somebody said I had a St. Louis accent, and I was like, I don't believe that because I don't
I
believe we
couldn't
have
tell
an
you.
accent.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you what a St. Louis accent was if you told me.
Somebody said it's like a mix of somebody said it kind of sounds like a mix of like Saint or Louisiana and like New York mixed, and I'm like, what? Like I just
It's Louisiana is so smack dab in the middle of the country. Like I wouldn't be surprised if it was just a mix of everything.
yeah. And then my next question is, if there's anybody on the Independence that you'd like to face in a singles match, who would it be?
A singles match? Oh, I didn't even I haven't thought of singles matches. There's so many people. You know, I could the my options have completely expanded. I said in another interview that the biggest thing for me going on the independence is that in WWE, as ironically as it seems, you don't not everybody gets the opportunity to even go out and wrestle in like a way that anybody would even see. I've wrestled a bajillion house shows, but in terms of like TV matches, you're lucky if you get a one segment match that goes for 5 minutes. That would be like a really good chunky match. And if you go and watch and you look out for it, it's a very small group of people that actually get, you know, like your longer 2 segment, 3 segment style matches where you can tell a story and kind of do anything. So my whole thing on the independence is that I just am excited to be able to wrestle. So it's not even one person in particular, but I just want to wrestle everybody and I actually just want to do it. And so
So did you wrestle on Independence before you came to WWE?
very briefly, when I was training with Booker T, I wrestled for Reality of Wrestling for about a year,
Okay.
um, leading up to my tryout, and then waiting for my tryout to get back to me, and then waiting for me to actually go to Orlando and start at the Performance Center. So I
Okay.
have I probably had 10 indie matches before I got to WWE.
I'm real excited for you to get to experience all the crazy different venues on the independent scene.
I'm excited because I used to go like I said, I was a fan before I was a worker. So I've been to a lot of indie shows. I've seen all kinds of different places, and I'm just excited to, you know, um, I guess the closest thing for me to perform in that would be like an indie show would be some of the NXT house shows, like the interstate loops that we do.
Yeah.
Um, they were kind of more at like the indie venue size places and in ballrooms and in bars and stuff like that. But the atmosphere was always really cool to me, so I'm excited to um, experience it.
Is there one specific independent venue that you can't wait to wrestle at?
One specifically? No, it's kind of the same thing. I want to go everywhere. I
Yeah.
want to I really so as soon as I got released, me and Mansoor were talking, and we were like, oh, I really want to go to like Mexico or Japan too. Like I like now that we did a lot of European tours with WWE, but we never made it to Mexico and we never made it to Asia. So I kind of want to start marking off some continents.
And then I seen the list you posted on Twitter for who you want to wrestle. How long ago did you write that list?
This morning when I had the idea for the tweet, I was like, oh, this is gonna be a banger.
I woke up. I woke up this morning and then I seen your tweet, and then followed by that I seen Ali's video, and I was like, "Oh, today's
Today's the
Freedom
day.
Day." Yeah,
Yeah.
today's the day.
No,
Started seeing.
Ollie's video is freaking incredible. It's awesome. It's it. So here's the thing about Ollie, and I'm not going to tell any of his stories, but Ali has wanted, like, clearly, as you can see from that video, he's wanted this for a very long time, and he's doing it. So he's gonna be a guy to watch in the next year.
I've seen the names that he didn't name, but the people they showed in that
He
video
showed, yeah.
in all of those matchups. I mean, he already marked off at least one of them was Speedball, and then he has like 12 matches announced already. My whole Twitter feed is Ali announced for this show, this show, that show. I'm like, he is booked,
Well, because
booked.
he
Yeah.
was he was smart and he was really quiet about it this entire time. But yeah, Ollie's great. We go way back to Retribution days, so I'm very happy for him. He's gonna be great for whoever he lands with.
That was gonna be my next question. How was it being in Retribution?
It was not ideal, but it was the best chance I ever got. So it was kind of the story of my career is taking whatever crumbs I can get and trying to make the most out of them. And with Retribution, I don't even know that I was supposed to be in Retribution. I got lucky that everybody on Twitter made fun of the fact that the little guys that were in the first Retribution segment that were like cutting up the
Yeah.
ring and all that were little. So Vince said that he wanted some bigger guys. So they grabbed some guys who were working in the performance center at the time, and I was one of them. And in the back of my head, I was like, man, if I can keep on doing this, then maybe I can slip through and then just get called up. And I was right; it worked.
So do you have any stories with any of the Retribution members? Like any fun stories?
Um, well, okay, so here's a good one. And I said I wouldn't tell Ali stories, but this is me watching Ali as a story. There was never, I don't think they had a definitive plan for what they wanted Retribution to be at any point. But when they were trying to decide, they decided that they wanted a leader, and they were trying to decide who it was going to be. And we heard earlier in the day, me and T-Bar, Dijak, we heard that it was going to be Ali. And we were in the locker room and we saw a producer walk up to him. And it was like, that was the moment where we were going to see him hear that he was going to be the leader of Retribution. And Dijak looks at me and he says, all right, depending on his reaction is going to depend on how this entire thing is going to go. Yeah, because it was like, oh, because at that point, like, it was kind of feeling a little damaged goods. It wasn't obviously not ideal for anybody. So for him to get handed the sandwich that was Retribution, who would blame him for being dejected? But he heard, and we saw him look over at us, and he nodded. He walked over to us, and he was like, "All right, what are we gonna do?" And that was kind of like that was the attitude. It was always us trying to carry this albatross up a hill, kind of thing. And that was always the vibe in the environment with all of us, with Mia, with Shane Haste. We always felt that we kind of got the raw end of the stick with it, but we were all kind of committed to making it work. So
I was gonna say you guys all. I mean, the saying is making chicken salad out of chicken shit or whatever. You guys, especially you as maximum male models, also like you just made the best out of everything, and I admire that.
thank you. I always say that not everybody gets the opportunity to be cool guy that wins. Most people don't get that opportunity. So when you're given something that's not cool guy that wins, if you don't put yourself into it and you don't have fun with it, then the audience can tell, and then it really doesn't work with them. So the only chance you have is to make the audience feel your enjoyment that you're having with it. With Maximum Male Models, especially, we had a lot of fun with that. And I think people started realizing that. And that's when we kind of turned a corner where everybody hated it immediately. But like over the course of a year, we started winning people over, and we were kind of poised to do something really cool with it. But unfortunately, it didn't end up happening.
And is there anybody that you wish you could have wrestled in WWE?
I had a very brief interaction with Randy Orton in like a battle royal, or maybe it was like a big 6-man or something. I forgot. It wasn't much. I just remember because me and Dijak were just like, oh, we better not mess up this spot with Randy. Randy's the GOAT. He's amazing. He's incredible. Just to work with him would have been amazing in like a bigger capacity.
Yeah,
Especially at the time, I think him and Riddle were together, and me and Dijak were together. It was like, oh, that would have been a really cool match. But never say never. It could happen some other time.
most
Um,
definitely.
but I mean, I was fortunate. I've worked John Cena. I've worked a lot of great guys. So it's I enjoyed my time.
I was gonna say you're very grateful right now. You're not doing the typical hopping on a podcast and just tearing into them, being like, "Oh, I can't stand my time there," all of that, and that's
No,
also
there's
something I
there's
admire.
no use being bitter about it. I have my house. My kids are happy and fed for the past several years. So, it's not a. I don't think I burned any bridges. So, there's always the opportunity to go back. So there's no use in being bitter podcast guy.
And then the final question that I ask every guest is, if there was one piece of advice you could give anybody, what would it be? And it doesn't have to be related to wrestling. It could just be any advice.
Kind of just like what I said. I don't even think it's just applies to wrestling. If you could find something you like about anything you do, I think that reflects and everybody sees it, even if you're not going around saying it. If you have enjoyment if you can find that little bit that you enjoy about anything, uh, people see it and people reflect that vibe back at you. And I think it just makes everything better.
Most definitely. And then if you want to let the people know where they can find you on social media, upcoming shows, merch, all of that.
We're all over the world. Immediately, we're pretty booked for the first 3 months, so you can see us all over the place. I'm not gonna say anyone in particular because I don't want to forget anybody. But if you want to keep track, I'm Great Black Otaku on everything. Specifically, if you want to watch us on Twitch, we stream 2 to 3 times a week. Everybody loves it. It's going to be an award-winning Twitch stream every time we go on. Check it out. And I'm on Cameo and buy my t-shirts at foryourwear.com/Mace Madden or MXM.
Awesome. And then anything else you want to say before we hop off?
No, thanks for having me and good talk.
Absolutely. That's going to do it for this episode, guys. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at your boy Squint or at a man in his podcast. Leave a thumbs up or a thumb down, a 1 star, 5 stars. I don't give a shit. Peace.